The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula 1, FormulaE, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your host, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
And this week, the gang is all here.
Yep.
John has made his triumphant return to the producer's chair. Welcome back.
I made it.
Welcome back, brother.
Well, that said, caveat, I won't be here next week.
I know. It's one of those things.
It's my oldest daughter's birthday next week.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday to her.
I won't say how old she'll be because it makes me feel so old.
Yeah, I know, unfortunately. But hey, that being said, my thoughts and prayers go out to my family that's up in Michigan. My Aunt Cheryl passed away this morning. I just found that out.
My goodness.
My prayers go out to my Uncle Jim and my cousin James and cousin Mary Lynn and all them, because I know that that's rough on them. I've had to deal with it. So
we all do at some point.
Yep, tough times, no doubt about it. All right, so we're here for racing. We're not here for all that. Let's go ahead and get into this. Hey, the SRX Series is back in action. Year 2 debut took place last Saturday evening, Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida. Included a local driver, Bubba Pollard, in the field. Pollard impressed, too. Won heat race number 1. Helio Castroneves claimed heat race number 2, and that was what helped set the starting lineup. Castroneves starting on the pole, Tony Kanaan beside him. The two swapped the lead out several times. Pollard, meanwhile, started toward the back of the field with defending series champion Tony Stewart, and those two started to work their way up through the field. Smoke's car went away. Pollard, however, got up into second, just didn't have enough to be able to catch Castroneves. Castroneves claims the season-opening win, his first win in the series, and teased that the win might lead to some other things when he said that Don Hawk, the CEO of the Superstar Racing Experience, quote, Don Hawk and I had a bet. Winning the race, he will find me one race in NASCAR. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Bubba Pollard's second place. He claimed a second place to Tony Stewart at Eldora on dirt last year. He claimed that win on dirt helped him as a driver. He was a late addition to the race in Pensacola, which expanded the field out to 13 drivers. Knowing that he's mostly open wheel, but he did some sports car racing last year.
Right.
What does him doing as well as he did last year at Eldora on dirt do for him when it comes to maybe claiming the win last week at Pensacola?
Well, it helps with short track prowess for sure. Learning how to control a car on a short track because he's so used to running street courses, road courses, and super speedways that are mile and a half or bigger, not counting Iowa.
Sure.
Let me say that straightforward. But anybody that could be successful at Eldora and have a really good run, if you could run top 3 no matter what you're running, it's going to help you no matter what, because Eldora is all about car control, wide open.
There you go. All right. Castroneves wins. Pollard second. Again, great run for Pollard up against some pretty stout competition.
Yep.
Think of these names in the top 10. Ryan Newman, Tony Kanaan, Bobby Labonte, Greg Biffle, Marco Andretti, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Bill Elliott, Tony Stewart, Ernie Francis Jr., Paul Tracy, Michael Waltrip. That's actually the rundown of the entire 13. Points after one race largely mirror the race at Five Flags, the results. So we're just going to wait until after this weekend to run them down. Strangely, later in the evening, because you got to remember, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central start time for the SRX Series. It was after that the Camping World Truck Series got their second dirt race of the season in at Knoxville, Iowa. Both Cup and Xfinity were off, so Moonlighters were something to watch out for. Not Kyle Busch, though. On that note, Todd Gilliland, driving for his dad's team, David Gilliland Racing, he grabbed the lead with 10 laps to go, claims the win over John Hunter Nemechek, Zane Smith third, Ty Majeski fourth, then Stuart Friesen, Derek Kraus, Matt Crafton, Grant Enfinger, Tyler Ankrum, and Ben Rhodes. As noted, he's a moonlighter. So no new winners in the Truck Series. We still have half the playoff slots locked up with, as of last night, 3 races to go? Or was it after last night, 3 races to go?
For trucks?
Yeah.
As of last night, counting last night, 3 to go.
3 to go. There you go. So 2 to go now. We'll get to that one coming up here in a little bit. We'll deal with the points later as well. Sunday's racing got underway with the NHRA. They were running at Bristol Dragway, Thunder Valley Nationals. Top Fuel, Justin Ashley and Sean Langdon paired up in the finals. Reaction times almost identical. Ashley holding the ever-so-slight edge. He held on to it at the other end. Claims the win running a 3.813 ET at 325.30 miles per hour. Second win of 2022, fourth win of his career. Tom Wilkerson took on Ron Capps in the funny car final. Capps with a huge advantage off the light, and he just expanded it out all the way to the other end. His run, 3.984 seconds, 324.36 miles per hour. That's his 69th win in funny car, 70th win at the top levels of the NHRA. He did win 1 in Top Fuel, by the way. Pro Stock Car, Aaron Stanfield taking on Erica Enders. Enders getting off the line 1/1000th of a second quicker, an eyelash, but began reporting a severe tire shake. So she backed out trying to get control of the car, and that gave Stanfield the win. Got a bad start, but he got his car to hook up. Wasn't pretty. 8.033 second run, 184.98 miles per hour. Yeah, he was having a hard time getting it hooked up until he was pretty far down the line. But it was enough. He kept with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to keep going at it in hopes that something will go wrong. And in this case for Erica Enders, it did. And that does give Stanfield the win. His second win this year, 6th event win of his career. And in Pro Stock Motorcycle, came down to a battle between Angel Sampé and Jerry Savoy. Both drivers actually red-lighted, but Sampé red-lighted first, so Savoy gets the win, marks his 14th win, first of 2022. Top Fuel points, the top 5 anyway. Brittany Force out front, 25 up on Mike Salinas, 52 over Justin Ashley. Steve Torrance is 4th? That's weird. I'm not used to saying that. 71 back, Austin Prock in 5th, 265 out. So it's pretty much a battle between the top 4 until we get to the countdown to the championship where things kind of get reset. Matt Hagan retains the funny car points lead. He's up 42 over Robert Height, 106 over Ron Capps. John Force now 266 down, and Cruz Pedregon in 5th, needing a telescope to see first, 347 points. Pro Stock Car points leader Eric Enders 83 up on Stanfield. Kyle Koretsky's 250. Let me see. Kyle Koretsky's 208 out, 251 back is Dallas Green. Greg Anderson 289 back, and the tightest race amongst the top 5 is in Pro Stock Motorcycle, where Birmingham's own Steve Johnson remains at the top of the standings. He's 79 up on Karen Stouffer. Then you got Matt Smith, 127 down, 133 behind is Angie Smith, and sitting 139 out is Angel Sampé. We get up to Canada on Sunday. They ran the Canadian Grand Prix in the city of Montreal. Things got interesting. One on lap 49 of 70. Yuki Tsunoda hit the turn 2 barriers hard after coming out of the pits on new but cold tires. After things got cleaned up, racing resumed with 16 to go. Max Verstappen was able to hold off Carlos Sainz, so he claims another win on the season. It's his 6th this year and his 26th of his young career. Sainz holds off Sir Lewis Hamilton for 2nd, his 5th time on the podium this year, but seemingly Sainz is always a bridesmaid, never a bride. This is a guy who's missing it by, to borrow a phrase from a 1960s show, ask your grandparents, kids, missed it by that much.
Yeah, he's missing several by fractions, and I mean fractions.
I mean, he's doing basically everything that he can do. All the right stuff is there. It's just not quite everything has come together to allow him to get that win. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. Hamilton, who has been highly critical of his Mercedes this season, claimed his first podium finish of 2022. Think about that. 7-time champion finally gets his first podium of the year. George Russell and the other Mercedes, who has outperformed Hamilton all year to this point, was 4th. Charles Leclerc, who had to battle from the back of the field, got all the way back up to 5th. Would have been interesting to see if he didn't have to come from all the way in the back of the field.
Yeah.
Esteban Ocon 6th, Valtteri Bottas 7th, Zhou Guan Yu 8th, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll fell out the top 10. The Haas F1 twins that we talked about last week both started in the top 10, 5th and 6th. Schumacher's day ended on lap 18. He had massive technical problems with his power unit. That's that Ferrari thing again. Kevin Magnussen made contact with Hamilton early, got some slight damage to his front wing. He got called in to replace it. The team decided to go with hard compound tires and change their pit strategy on the day. They used it as a one-stop. It was a gamble that failed. We'll get into the details of it later. Let's just say that the tires gave out with less than 10 laps to go, and he finished last amongst the cars that were still running at the end, 17th. We'll talk about that, like I said, during Formula One news. Verstappen's out to a big lead in the points, 175 to 129 over his teammate, Sergio Perez. Then you got 126 for Charles Leclerc, George Russell, 111. Carlos Sainz has 102. Then you got to drop down to Lewis Hamilton with 77, Lando Norris with 50. Valtteri Bottas has 46, Esteban Ocon 39, and Fernando Alonso up into 10th. He's got 18 points now. Red Bull holds 304 points for the Constructors' Cup lead, 228 for Red Bull, Mercedes 188. McLaren drops all the way down to 65 and 4th, and Alpine 57-51 for Alfa Romeo. That's a battle for 4th right there. And then you got the battles for the rest of the field. AlphaTauri 27, 16 for Aston Martin. Finally jumped over Haas F1 with 15. They've dropped down to 9th place now. At one point in time, they were as high as 4th. Williams still holding down the basement with 3. This weekend's racing actually began last night. Nashville Superspeedway Camping World Truck Series running the Rackley Roofing 200. Matt, as tired as he is, not only has the T-shirt, but the details.
I really don't know where to start from yesterday, honestly.
Let's deal with the race, and we'll deal with the drama that happened beforehand when we get into the news.
The race was nothing really but the Ryan Preece show again for the second year in a row at Nashville Superspeedway.
Which is not necessarily unexpected.
It wouldn't, for the first half of the race, it was thinking, okay, maybe Zane Smith has something for him here. Because he couldn't do anything with Zane Smith, but when the sun went down, track cooled off, it was like, let's bake another pizza and go for it in that Hunt Brothers Pizza Ford.
Sure.
But race was fairly calm for the first part until Ty Majeski decided he wanted to go 4 wide into turn 3 and cause the big one, and then which had another one happen when Max Gutierrez decided he wanted to dump Haley Deegan going into turn 1 and not lift in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
But going through the rundown, again, like I said, Ryan Preece, who won your race winners, Zane Smith, second, Carson Hocevar, third. Well, those top 3 right there, the last lap, they tried to make it a show. But Zane Smith missed going into 1, washed up the track, blocked Hocevar, slowed him down. Preece said, see you later.
Yep.
Carson Hocevar third, Ty Majeski fourth, Stuart Friesen fifth, Christian Eckes sixth, Tyler Ankrum seventh, Max Gutierrez coming from last because his time was disallowed in qualifying to finish 8th, John Hunter Nemechek 9th, and Matt Crafton 10th. Going through the field, bullet pointing your big names. You got Ben Rhodes 12th, Chandler Smith 15th. You had Todd Bodine making start 799, finished 27th because he decided he wanted to spin it off of 4 with a short amount of time to go.
Oops.
Haley Deegan said got caught up in that accident, got wrecked. She was 28th. Matt DiBenedetto 31st, Grant Enfinger 32nd, Corey Heim 33rd. And that's really it, your big names.
There you go. No new winners, by the way, inside there. So we still have the 5 that are locked in to the playoffs, and the battle for points pretty much the same as it has been. Matt Crafton still the one hanging on.
He is.
Basically inside the top 10. So.
Well, we had, yesterday there was a penalty that came about on the spot. They suspended Shane Wilson, Derek Krause's crew chief, and penalized him 10 points due to improperly mounted ballast on the truck. So that's going to tighten the race for the cutoff spot up a little bit more. But, we'll see. Time will tell.
We'll keep an eye on it. Only a couple more races left. Later today, Xfinity Series gets their chance at Nashville Superspeedway. Going to run the Tennessee Lottery 250. Airs on the USA Network and MRN Radio. 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Tonight, SRX Series getting in the second race of the year. They go from Florida up to Virginia. They're going to run at South Boston Speedway. CBS has the coverage 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. Tomorrow, first of the events to go is the NHRA's Camping World Drag Racing Series. They're going to be at the finals of the NHRA Summit Racing Equipment Finals, Norwalk, Ohio. Fox has the coverage, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. And the NASCAR Cup Series wraps up the racing weekend with the Ally 400 at Nashville Superspeedway, a place Matt and I will be, along with our friend from Talladega Superspeedway, Matt Coulter. NBC has the coverage there with MRN Radio, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to warn my cohorts and coworkers at Talk 99.5 in Birmingham now. I'm going to be really tired Monday morning, just to let you know.
Like I am right now.
Because he came from there last night.
Yeah.
Formula One, Indycar, Formula E are all off this weekend. Speaking of off, we got to take a short break here. When we come back, we'll get into the news, and we'll start with the NHRA. We got some things to talk about there, including the fact that Ron Capps is setting new records. We'll deal with that when we come back. We're just underway right here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Steve West with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers in the house. We appreciate you checking us out, whether it's on the flagship station or on our YouTube page. Some of you may not have known about it because we're getting new people all the time. If you go onto YouTube and you search for CRN Live, that is where we are right now. As we noted, the NHRA ran at Bristol Dragway, running the Thunder Valley Nationals last weekend. We also noted this. Ron Capps claims the win in Funny Car. It's his 69th win in that division, 70th win at high-level NHRA competition. In the process, he ties a record. That was his 6th Funny Car event win at Bristol. That ties him with Tony Schumacher for the most Funny Car event wins in NHR history at Bristol Dragway. Not bad.
Pretty elite company.
Not bad at all. Cab said afterward, quote, "It's an amazing thing, and I'm living the dream. Today felt different because we worked really hard at this one. We knew that win at Toyota was out there. Everyone wanted to get that first win in the Supra, and I'm blessed that we got to do it. Don't forget, Toyota changed their Funny Car entry from the Camry last year to the Supra just for beginning this year." We didn't mention this, but David Barton claimed the win in the factory stock showdown division at Bristol. In the process, took that division's points lead as well. Barton faced off against Stephen Bell in the final pairing. He had the quicker reaction time and ended up laying down a 7.886 ET at 174.01 miles per hour, and his Copo Camaro claims the win and takes the points lead by 13. Toyota Racing. You don't know whether you remember this from a couple of years ago, but they're bringing it back. Apparently it was popular enough, they're going to try it again. It's an advertising campaign known as the Sponsifier. It'll air on Fox's coverage of the NHRA and NBC and Fox's coverage of NASCAR. Remember, NBC has now the second half of the Cup and Xfinity season, but Fox still has Camping World Truck Series action. Sponsifier is a fan experience as well. This is going to allow a chance for fans to be able to design their own car, which will then be featured in the Toyota Racing experience in the 2 series. Ads will feature for the first time this year NHRA driver J.R. Todd along with NASCAR Cup Series driver Kurt Busch. They will be joined by returning ad veterans Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin. Fans, you can enter for a chance to have your design featured on a Toyota racer in either NASCAR or the NHRA. If you go to Sponsifier, it's a weird word, I understand, so I'll spell it for you. SPONSAFIER.com, Sponsifier.com. If you do it between now and August the 31st, you can enter. The winner will be announced in mid-September. You will, if you are the winner, get the chance to work with a company called The Decal Source on a workable, keep that in mind, workable design that'll be unveiled at the Toyota Racing Experience at the Toyota display at area tracks, both NASCAR and NHRA shortly thereafter.
So it's not going to race, but it'll be on display.
It will.
Okay. At least we know we got one thing to not worry about because Toyota doesn't do a display at Talladega. Because I don't want to see a Denny Hamlin or a Kyle Busch car decked out in a bunch of Alabama junk with Roll Tide all over it.
Says the Auburn fan.
Yeah. I don't want to see it. I would rather see the pink rainbow car with the cats all over it like we saw last time.
Well, and I get the funny feeling that's probably what you're going to get. You're probably going to get something along those lines, truth be told.
I saw the commercial for it that they're about to release with Kyle and Kurt in it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm just
going to shake your head.
Yeah, you can see it on video.
I got you. And by the way, showing why Fox decided to getting into broadcasting of the NHRA as opposed to the previous rights holder ESPN by showing the event finals live on a lot of weekends. Last weekend, the TV numbers came in from the first live showing of the finals in 2022, which aired on the Fox network. Nearly 900,000 people tuned in to watch the eliminations of the Thunder Valley Nationals. That's up 18% over last June's events that were also shown live on the Fox network. And that's the first of 5 straight live finals that'll be shown live on the Fox network itself. We've talked about this before. We'll say it again. NASCAR has been relatively flat, although we're starting to see a small uptick in the TV ratings. We've seen increases in Formula One. We've seen increases in Indycar. We're seeing increases in the NHRA. Mm-hmm. And while the numbers aren't in, I'm expecting probably to see a slight uptick in SRX series from last year to this year as well.
Well, really, because somebody decided to run the SRX head-to-head with trucks last weekend. SRX was actually down just a smidge.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I haven't seen the final number.
But they're probably going to bounce back in a massive way tonight because they've got prime time all to themselves.
That's right.
So I'll be interested to see when it comes out next week, too.
We do like our motorsports here in this country. Let's turn our attention over to NASCAR. We start off with the Cup Series. Hendrick Motorsports coming to terms with a partner, Valvoline, on an extension through the 2027 season. That's kind of an unprecedented length of time for a partner to sign an extension, so congratulations to the two sides there. It's a new agreement that keeps the oil company as a primary sponsor for defending champion Kyle Larson for 3 races and 2 other races on William Byron's car. They'll be an associate sponsor on all 4 cars all season, and I do believe they have been and continue to be the official oil for Hendrick Motorsports.
They are.
As for Larson over the next 4 races, Cliff Daniels is out. He's sitting out a 4-race suspension due to that lost wheel at Sonoma Raceway a couple of weeks ago. So sitting in his place, not bad to be able to pull Kevin Meendering off the bench. Meendering slated to cover all 4 of the races, Nashville this weekend, then Road America, Atlanta, and New Hampshire. Now, do keep this in mind. Meendering has only 21 crew chief starts in the Cup Series to his credit, but he does have 3 wins, 39 top 5, and 77 top 10 finishes in only 98 Xfinity Series starts as a crew chief there. And keep in mind, we just talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that Hendrick foray back into the Xfinity Series later on this year. Kevin Meendering's leading that as well.
Yep.
So this is a nice little pickup. It's not like, we're dropping all that much from Cliff Daniels to Kevin. It's just a matter of he and Kyle Larson, who have worked together, by the way, in the past, to make sure they have their communication set.
They have.
How big is that, by the way? Communication between the driver and the crew chief.
Oh, it's huge.
I mean,
because you gotta have that.
You get so comfortable. We'll use the Kyle Larson, Cliff Daniels situation. You get so comfortable. Obviously, they won the title last year.
Yeah.
How big is it for him to go from Daniels to Meendering? Is it that big, or is their prior experience, which has been a little bit, enough to get them through this next 4 races without him really stumbling that bad?
That prior experience being there gives that little bit of a safety net. Now, if he had somebody, if they just threw his lead engineer in and said, "Hey, it's yours for 4 weeks, you call the shots," it'd be even more of a safety net. But if you bring somebody in off the bench that hasn't turned a wrench on a Cup car in years, different story.
Right.
But they've got that working relationship from the past there, so they're not going to fall off much. I mean, he didn't yesterday for the little bit of practice that we did get to catch about 20 minutes of it. Same old Kyle Larson. I mean,
unfazed for the most part.
Yeah, pretty much.
Over at Stewart Haas Racing, after complaining loudly about how his pit crew just can't seem to put a full race together, Kevin Harvick's pit crew is getting changes beginning this weekend and for the remainder of the year. Daniel Coffey moves from the 14 of Chase Briscoe to the 4 of Harvick. He becomes the new front tire changer. Brandon Banks makes the same move from the 14 to the 4 and becomes that car's new jackman. Now, Briscoe has a win, which, at least for now, depending on who all else might win throughout the rest of the regular season, has him locked into the playoffs. The rear tire, the gas man, and the tire carrier all remain the same for Harvick. Over on Briscoe's side of things, he gets Harvick's old front tire changer, Shane Pippola. Stan Doolittle is now the former jackman on the 4. He does not go to the 14. He actually slides over to Rick Ware Racing in the number 51 of Cody Ware, because Stewart Haas Racing supplies the pit crews for Rick Ware Racing. Briscoe will actually get the jackman from the 51, Matthew Schlitter. Okay, that seems an interesting move. And if
musical cars, anyone?
Yeah, really. If I'm Stan Doolittle,
More like musical jackman.
I'm wondering what it is that I've been doing wrong and what I might need to fix, because
Especially if I'm going from the 4 car to the 51.
to the 51, that seems a pretty massive demotion right there. That's putting somebody on notice that, hey, listen, shape up or we're getting ready to ship you out to find somebody new.
That's going from here to here.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just living up to his name.
Doolittle.
Doolittle.
Maybe, I don't know, but
Possibility.
what you mentioned the little bit of practice that we saw yesterday, and granted, the pit crews are not necessarily all that involved, obviously, when it comes to the practice situation. But what I saw out of the 4 car in practice was not impressive.
Not at all. I mean, 29th. He was over, let's see, 30, 26, 29, 60. He was over a half a second off the pace, which equates to over 3 miles an hour at Nashville.
That's not going to help. Got to find more speed.
Yeah.
And this also does, that kind of thing puts a little extra pressure on a pit crew as well. Because, yeah, I mean, you can make up X number of spots while you're on the track.
True.
But we have seen leaps and bounds be made in the pit stalls if it's done right. And I use that word if very, very carefully and I put a whole lot of emphasis on it.
Yeah. Here's how much parity you're going to see in the Cup race tomorrow. I'm going to read 30 to 36. Well, I'm going to read 30 to 35. 36 did not take a time in practice. 30, Harrison Burton, 30.38. The 30.30. 31st, Todd Gilliland, 30.38. 32nd, Cody Ware, 30.58. 33rd, Brad Keselowski, 30.68.
Wow.
Josh Bilicki, 30.78. JJ Yaley, 30.80.
Phew. Ouch. Things that need to get fixed, boys and girls. Things that need to get fixed. I mean, that's about the best way we can put it. So we'll have to, it'll be something to watch tomorrow. It'll certainly be interesting to see whether or not some of those big names can make their way from, well, literally the back of the field all the way up to the front, because that's what it's going to take. And for Kevin Harvick, it is vitally important that he do so, because Kevin Harvick is just on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs. He's 7 points under the cutoff behind his teammate, Eric Almirola. And again, we mentioned this, 12 of 16 playoff spots have already been locked in because we've had 12 different winners on the season. So that means only 4 drivers right now making it in on points. 2014 champion ain't one of them right now.
Now, maybe he's like me, just a bit, feeling the age set in. Oh,
Maybe.
There goes my psoriasis. Yeah. Okay.
I understand. Hey, we've seen some Australian drivers be able to make it in NASCAR. Marcus Ambrose has had success here in the United States in both NASCAR and in Indycar. You can witness Scott McLaughlin, for example. He's doing well in IndyCar. Next driver looking to take a jump across the Pacific is a kid by the name of Brody Kostecki. Brody wants to continue in Australian supercars, but he also has his eye on maybe running a partial Cup Series schedule next year as well. Now, Brody was in the U.S. earlier on, about a month, within the past month, as a matter of fact. Late May and earlier this month, he took in both the Indy 500 and the first ever Cup Series race at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. He took the time, he made connections with and talked a lot with people in both Cup and Xfinity. And as noted, he doesn't want to make a full-time switch. What he wants to do right now is run NASCAR during the Australian Supercars off-season. Now, remember, they're in the Southern Hemisphere, so we're in summer now. They're in winter now. They're not running. When we get into NASCAR off-season, they're going to be in their regular season because it's going to be summer down there. He said this, quote, "I don't have anything set in stone. Whether it's Cup or Xfinity, I'm not too phased. I just want to do more racing next year. That'll go along with my Supercar schedule. It's just more racing in general." Keep an eye on that because, well, I mean, let's just face it. We're always interested in seeing who's going to be able to do what. We saw Marcus Ambrose come in and do it. We've seen other foreign drivers. Heck, we were just talking about Daniel Suarez last weekend, talking about him becoming the first Mexican-born driver and only the 5th driver born outside of the United States to claim a win at the Cup Series level. And we mentioned Marcus Ambrose in that situation. It'll be interesting to see if Brody has enough to be able to hang with him, especially on a part-time deal. That Project 91 that they got going on over there at Trackhouse Racing, that might be his avenue in. We'll see. And as we noted on the show a couple of weeks ago, cautions in the Cup Series are up 78% over the same time as last year. Now, we've been complaining about it pretty loudly here on this show, and we've even talked about how some of those have been, well, let's just say unnecessary, to be polite.
Why is that?
Oh, we don't know. But somebody's got a hair trigger finger when it comes to calling yellows. And NASCAR has finally heard the complaints, and they looked into changing the process since Sonoma of calling caution flags, and have released what changes they have made. Now, this is a massive word salad. So we'll try and dig through it and see if we can't put some common sense to it. But they said that since the controversial end to the All-Star race, you might remember that, the new rule is that should an incident require immediate action, the race director has that power. But when an incident comes at a key time in the race, the race director should consult the other two officials in the tower before unanimously or unilaterally, I guess I should put it that way, calling a caution. So in other words, if you're on lap 25 of, say, 300, and you have some guy scraping the wall on the back straightaway, you still have the freedom to call a yellow, even though basically all that driver got was the equivalent of a Darlington stripe. You still might call a yellow for no reason whatsoever. But now if a driver witnessed the end of the All-Star race when Ricky Stenhouse Jr. scraped the wall off of turn 2 with the leader and the eventual winner, remember that, Ryan Blaney, being less than a football field away from the start-finish line, no wreck, no spins, no nothing, just scraped the wall, they still called a caution. So in that situation, now the person who's in charge of punching the button that turns on the yellow lights all around the track now has to turn to the two cohorts and say, call a caution, yes or no. But he doesn't have to do that on lap 25.
Yeah, I can see that.
I get it, but at the same time, again, if all you're getting is the equivalent of a Darlington stripe, why would you even think about calling the caution in the first place? To me, I need a spin out. Even if you don't get a wreck, I need a spin out. And the reason why I'm saying I need a spin out to call the caution is because I have the possibility of that car somehow ending up, before coming to a complete stop, ending up somehow on the race path, on the racing surface, in the way of cars going 170, 180, maybe more miles per hour.
Yeah, but I'll say it this simple before we have to take this break. If you've got to have two people telling the race director what he needs to do, why do we have the race director in that position to begin with?
I can agree with that. I mean, I get it. You need to be aware of what's going on at all times, and when your attention is brought to a potential incident, you need to be ready to throw the flag, throw a caution, because you don't know what's going to happen. But just because somebody scraped the wall doesn't mean that you need to hit that caution.
Exactly, and very true. Now, I'm not questioning the current race director, which I've said his name before in the show. Mm-hmm. We know who it is.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning his ability to direct a race. I'm questioning if he is the qualified person that needs to do this.
He may not be the most qualified.
Yeah. I mean,
you and I have come to know some of the officials that are up there in that tower.
Yeah. And I'll say this. The current race director for the ARCA Menard series, that is a native of Birmingham, Alabama, better known as Tiffany Myrick, I would give her a shot.
There you go.
Because ARCA's had some pretty decent called races here lately.
Yeah. Just ease up on the yellows. 78% higher than last year. Something's up. I get it. We got a brand new car and you're worried about it. But you know what? These cars, as you noted, are built like flipping tanks. Give them a chance.
Yeah.
Give them a chance. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll turn our attention to the Xfinity Series, got the Camping World Truck Series, and some sad news out of the world of NASCAR this week as well. We'll deal with all that when we come back. You're listening to CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. It's amazing how we sometimes assume things. Now, portions of the show being brought to you by Ox Foundation Solutions. And we assume things. You know, we get into the car and we think, okay, yeah, we're pretty sure that the oil's good, got plenty enough gas, there's enough air in the tires, don't have to worry about any of that. You start the car, put it in gear, boom, we're gone. But when it comes to it, if you have a problem with your car, probably want to get it fixed.
Yeah, you probably do want to get it fixed for sure.
Same thing with your house. We go through the point where we just get comfortable in our house and it's just there, and we may not notice the changes from day to day because we live there from day to day. But pay attention next time. You know, if you're doing some yard work today around that, I get it, it's going to be hot, but if you got to do some yard work today, just take a look around the house. Take a close look, not just glance, take a close look. Got cracks in the brick? Look inside the house. You got cracks in the sheetrock? Anything like that? Got a funny smell in the basement? Now, none of this is a guarantee that you have a foundation problem, but it could be. So why would you just assume that what is in all likelihood the most expensive investment you're ever going to make in your life, your house, is just okay? Double check. Make sure. Call our friend Michael Hart. Anywhere in the state of Alabama, call our friend Michael Hart with Ox Foundation Solutions and set up an appointment or email him. You can call him at 205-362-6419. His email is mike@oxfoundations.com. He'll come out on a day and time that you guys set up, give you a no-cost, no-obligation written foundation assessment. That way you know for sure. And he'll tell you. He and Ox Foundation Solutions, highly reputable. They're not just out there to try and make a quick buck. If there's nothing wrong, he'll write it down. Nothing's wrong with the house. You have it in writing. Boom. That's it. You're done. If there is something wrong, he's got it in detail. He's got the estimate worked up. And then you tell him, well, I heard about it on the Championship Racing Network. Promo code's WEST. 15% off of that total he just quoted you. Set it up now. 205-362-6419. mike@oxfoundations.com. No cost, no obligation, written foundation assessment for you. Make your house Ox strong. Later today, Xfinity Series going to hit the track. An unexpected name going to be behind the wheel of the SS Greenlight Racing number 08 Ford Mustang. It's B.J. McLeod. He's moonlighting. McLeod, though, here's the thing, actually has still his own Xfinity Series team, but is going to be running for SS Greenlight Racing in place of David Starr. Starr has come down with the flu, not COVID-19. He tested negative for that. It's the regular old flu. It's McLeod's first Xfinity race of this season. It's interesting, though, that he's not running for his own team. It just seems odd to me. I get he's doing something for a friend, I get, but still, it seems odd.
This isn't the first time that he's done this. He's had his own team, and I know he's driven for JD Motorsports like this before as well.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for him.
Still, it seems odd. I know that he's done it before. I know it's a continuation of things that he's done in the past, but it's just so weird because over at his actual Xfinity Series operation, BJ McLeod Motorsports, for today's race, they have a non-regular driver in there as well, putting out the number 5 Mustang with Stewart-Haas Racing's reserve driver and the guy who won in the Camping World Truck Series last night, Ryan Preece, going to have sponsorship from United Rentals. This is his first scheduled Xfinity Series race of the year, by the way, and expect Stewart-Haas Racing to probably have prepared that car for Preece and that team.
Oh, I'm sure.
Stephen Parsons, meanwhile, out at BJ McLeod Motorsports. He did land pretty softly, though. He's landed over at Alpha Prime Racing. Parsons was recently named the full-time driver of McLeod's number 99 entry for 2022, failed to qualify for the season opener at Daytona, and he's shown some flashes of speed, but it just wasn't consistent enough. Results didn't match the promise. So with his other 2 cars also struggling in Xfinity, BJ McLeod was trying to figure out what to do. He ended up kind of saying, okay, probably ought to maybe drop a car, but he didn't quite figure out who it was before in Martinsville in April, Tommy Joe Martins, Alpha Prime Racing, saw Stephen Parsons. The two got to talking, and they struck up a deal. Parsons went to McLeod, said, hey, I've got this. What do you think? McLeod saw the opportunity to drop from 3 to 2 full-time cars, and Parsons joins Alpha Prime Racing for at least 12 races this year, gives McLeod some relief to concentrate, as I mentioned, on the 2 cars. That allows Martins and Alpha Prime Racing to use a driver who, as we noted, has some promise. He's 3 races into that deal in the number 45 so far. Best finish of 17th coming at Charlotte. Some are thinking that he's got enough promise that he could be a threat to win a race before the year's out. I haven't seen enough out of Alpha Prime Racing or Stephen Parsons yet to think that. So where are people coming up with this thought that maybe this pairing could be a threat to win?
I don't know. I don't know.
Very simple 3-word answer.
with Alpha Prime, not knocking Alpha Prime's equipment at all. Their equipment is definitely better than BJ McLeod's equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's not top tier, though.
It's not top tier. It's not low tier. It's just a fraction below mid tier. And I mean a fraction. But with a little break here, a little bit of updating here, a little bit of updating the engine there, they could easily go from fraction below mid tier to barely below top tier.
So
barely.
If we use the old grade school way of looking at things on a grade of A to F, he's probably running C plus equipment right now.
C plus on the verge of being a very, very low B minus.
And you could see them maybe improve with some breaks to B plus level.
I say B flat.
B flat. Okay. All right.
B flat.
Camping World Truck Series action. We've heard of drivers pulling double duty on NASCAR weekends. Then there's this weekend, the one Max Gutierrez. You talked about him just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
Had a fairly eventful night last night, dumping Haley Deegan. But finished top 10?
8th.
Not bad. Runs last night in the Truck Series for AM Racing in the number 22, taking the place of Austin Wayne Self. Don't forget, he's on a paternity break. Instead of running either the Xfinity competition or the Cup competition in Nashville this weekend, today or tomorrow, he now flies down to his native Mexico. He's running tomorrow in the NASCAR Mexico Series race at Cajitlan, it's easy for me to say, International Trioval in Jalisco, Mexico. There's a doubleheader for you. We've heard of people traveling before, traveling internationally for a doubleheader weekend. Knock it out, man.
Yeah, go for it.
Last night was only his second Camping World Truck Series start of the year. Backed up his start at Charlotte last month. He's got some ARCA Menards experience. Was sponsored by several of the companies that have sponsored him in both ARCA and NASCAR Mexico competition, including his primary sponsor from NASCAR Mexico, Inspectra Thermal Solutions. They specialize in thermal imaging for energy solutions. Wonder what country could use that. Just thinking out loud. I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, does Max Gutierrez, other than dumping Haley Deegan last night, what did you see? Top 10 finish, not bad for a guy who's got relatively little Camping World Truck Series experience.
That was what you call an attrition top 10. Okay. Attrition credited him with that top 10.
Okay.
But it was respectable.
Okay.
Taking away wrecking Deegan going into turn 1, taking away him having this start at the back because his time was disallowed because the truck was too low after qualifying. Yeah. Talk about that debacle.
Sure.
But overall, it was respectable.
Okay. All right. We'll have to see. We'll have to see whether he's got a future. Time will tell on that.
True.
The aforementioned Stephen Parsons also got another racing opportunity last night in Nashville. He was in the Young's Motorsports number 20 Chevrolet Silverado, so he basically is pulling double duty since he's running for Alpha Prime today as well. Mm-hmm. Last night was his first time starting in the Truck Series this year. He does have 6 series starts to his credit going back to 2018. His best finish so far in the trucks, 17th, which occurred at Bristol when he drove the number 15 for Premium Motorsports. Do you know where he finished last night right offhand?
Right offhand, he finished 22nd.
Okay, so he has yet to beat his best record yet.
Yeah,
we'll find out whether that happens. At least it was on the lead lap. I'll give him that. And then we're going to wrap up this hour with, unfortunately, some sad news. Word came down on Wednesday that a well-known name in the NASCAR world has passed away. Bruton Smith, patriarch of the Smith family that now owns Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, born Olin Bruton Smith, March 2nd, 1927 in Oakboro, North Carolina. Got into racing at an early age, remembers seeing, in other words, his first race at the ripe old age of 8. Bought his own very first race car at the age of 17. And at 18 was not only driving, but was promoting races as well. And Bruton Smith was never one to miss out on a chance to at least boast, somewhat playfully. Claims that during his rather short time behind the wheel, he was able to beat NASCAR legends that are names that include Buck Baker and Joe Weatherly. I guess if I beat them, I'd probably boast about it too.
Pretty well-known name.
At 22 years old, 1949, Smith was put in charge of NASCAR's biggest competitors, one of them at that time, the National Stock Car Racing Association, or the NSCRA, as opposed to NASCAR. This is a body that sanctioned races in 3 southeastern states, Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Why they skipped over South Carolina, I don't know. That's not my business. Anyway, he introduced a division called Strictly Stock, which many credit for accelerating Big Bill Francis' plans for NASCAR's version of the very same one. That's, by the way, what we now call the Cup Series in NASCAR competition. It created a rivalry that exists somewhat without the malice today. I'll get back to that. At 23, Smith took control of the lease on a Charlotte Speedway, not the same as Charlotte Motor Speedway. From Buck Baker and others promoted races at the facility, he and France began talks then of merging their respective sanctioning bodies together and had come to terms, but they never put pen to paper. They never formalized it because before that could happen, Smith got drafted, went into the Army, served 2 years, even was a paratrooper for a while. When he returned, he found that the new management that had taken over the NSCRA killed it. It was dissolved due to poor management. So he turned to the lease that he still had, and with the help of his wealthy brother-in-law, began building Charlotte Motor Speedway in 1959. It opened in 1960. Would you like to guess how much Charlotte Motor Speedway cost to build in 1959? I know you can look it up by looking at your rundowns, gentlemen, but if you did not see that number, what would you have guessed?
I haven't seen it, and in 1959, I'm going to poster $150K.
You're a little low, but still, he built that entire facility for $1.5 million. Now, it's big money, obviously. It's big money now. It was big money then, obviously. But when we talk about the fact that Talladega Superspeedway just underwent a $50 million renovation, that's a renovation. That's not the track. That's a renovation.
Yeah.
To the infield and a tunnel going under turn 3.
Mm-hmm.
$1.5 million is a flipping bargain.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it also was his first foray into trying to make it a success that ended in bankruptcy. But he wanted and he worked hard to regain control of it. It took him more than a decade. But he finally regained control of it in 1975. From there, he ended up launching Speedway Motorsports Incorporated. That officially happened in 1996. And he grew the company to ultimately own 11 NASCAR tracks in alphabetical order: Atlanta, Bristol, Charlotte, Dover, Kentucky, Vegas, Nashville, New Hampshire, Sonoma, and Texas. These are tracks that host 15 Cup races. 4 of those are in the Cup Series playoffs. And as of this season, now we mentioned Kentucky, it's off the Cup Series schedule. As a matter of fact, it's off the NASCAR schedule as a whole. He's also got another one of those tracks. That's North Wilkesboro Motor Speedway, which is beginning a major renovation. This is a guy that built up such an empire that as we got into the 2000s, he used Charlotte Motor Speedway as leverage, forcing the city of Concord, the county, and the state of North Carolina to allow him to build ZMAX Dragway. He proposed it, but it was opposed by residents in the nearby area, and it was about to be voted down by the councils until Smith walked in front of him and said, you're going to refuse me that? I think I'm just going to shut down Charlotte Motor Speedway. And when they heard that, they went, wait a minute. 2 races, Charlotte Motor Speedway, Cup races, Xfinity truck, millions of dollars tax. Wait a minute, we changed our mind.
Yeah, they did.
A deal was reached, reportedly included road improvement projects in and around the area, and boom, ZMAX Dragway comes into an existence. beautiful facility as well. We've seen it with our own eyes, Matt and I.
It is.
In other business moves, he founded a group called Sonic Automotive. You may have heard of it. They've got an extension of what right down in Birmingham, just off I-459. Some 100 car dealerships in all around the United States. That rivals both Hendrick and Penske in that number around the country. He began Speedway Children's Charities, and he also pledged $50 million of his own money to build a light rail system that would run from downtown Charlotte out to Charlotte Motor Speedway. And that was what put the city of Charlotte over the top in their bid to become the home of the new NASCAR Hall of Fame. We were wondering why and how a place like Talladega or Daytona didn't get it. Bruton Smith pledging $50 million to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. That line, it's called the Lynx line, L-Y-N-X, Lynx line. It does begin, indeed, in downtown Charlotte. It ends at UNC Charlotte, which is just a few miles short of the track. So I don't know whether it's finished.
No, it's finished.
In other words, I don't know whether there's the plan to eventually extend it out to Charlotte Motor Speedway, or is it done?
I'm pretty sure it's done because
Probably.
I've actually been on that Lynx line.
Yeah.
And it starts it actually starts in Fort Mill, South Carolina.
Okay.
Runs through downtown Charlotte all the way up to UNC Charlotte. So it's a pretty substantial length line.
Yeah, it is, no doubt. Bruton Smith inducted into several halls of fame, the North Carolina Business Hall of Fame in 2006. That same year, inducted into the National Motorsports Press Association Hall, of which Matt and I are members. International Motorsports Hall of Fame in 2007, and, of course, the NASCAR Hall of Fame in 2016. In 2003, the Sports Business Journal called Smith the third most powerful man in all of U.S. motorsports. Think about that for a minute. And he didn't fall far from that up until the point where he retired. Since 2006, the winner of the longest Cup Series race of the year, the Coca-Cola 600, they're awarded the Bruton Smith Trophy. But it was about a decade ago when he turned control of Sonic Automotive and SMI over to his son, Marcus, and he semi-retired, initially to battle non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was a battle he won at the ripe old age of 88. He was declared cancer-free. But on Wednesday, he passed away peacefully of natural causes. Bruton Smith, 95 years old. Massive, massive footprint within the NASCAR world. We talked about the tracks. We've talked about the rivalry, and there's still, I mean, we call it a rivalry, but it's obviously a more friendly rivalry. It's not an antagonistic one between SMI and what we used to call ISC, International Speedway Corporation. Now NASCAR, all under the umbrella there. SMI tracks run the Performance Racing Network. All ISC or NASCAR tracks run the Motor Racing Network. I mean, the rivalry between the two, again, friendly, but it runs pretty deep, truth be told.
It really does. I mean, you know, and this will be the last that it happens on a non-truck series or all-star event. Let me put that disclaimer out there, but MRN has the rights this weekend, and Nashville has recently just went under the SMI banner.
Correct.
So all the MRN crew is there, just like they was at Dover earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
But, and might I add too, it was really, really good to hear a certain voice on the airwaves of MRN last night, and I'm not talking about one specific person that we all have grown to love on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Winston Kelly was on pit road last night.
Love it. Glad to have you back, Winston.
He was on there.
You're missed.
It was he and Jason Toy that had pit road.
Very nice. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the Kyle Petty charity ride. It's easy for me to say. And Fox Sports 1's bringing back a pretty cool little segment on NASCAR Race Up. We'll talk about that and get into Hour 2 in full. When we come back, you're listening to CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. I'm Steve West with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. And for the first time, it took 3 years, Kyle Petty charity ride actually got to ride. It's kind of a circular route over in the southwestern United States, Utah down to Arizona, New Mexico, back up to Utah. Some 225 riders taking part in some leg of this year's ride. They raised about $1.8 million for the Victory Junction Gang Camp. The Petty family built that in honor, obviously, of their son, Adam Petty. Kyle said of this year's run, quote, "After being sidelined for nearly 3 years due to COVID, we get back to doing what we love." It's completely blown away by the excitement seen amongst our riders and fans along the route. We saw some of the most beautiful scenery this country has to offer, met some amazing people, experienced so many incredible bucket list places. I can only imagine what that could be like. I'm not a motorcycle rider, truth be told, but it might be fun to be part of this at some point in time.
There's a guy that I know in Georgia. He and his wife participate in it every year, and I've talked to him about it before, and he said it's an unreal experience.
I bet. And goes to some really cool stuff, too.
Yeah, it does.
Fox Sports 1's NASCAR Race Hub going all year long. Last year, they would kind of hit and miss after Fox lost it. But you got to remember, we still had the NBC Sports Network, so we had the NBC Sports doing NASCAR America. Well, that's now on Peacock. I ain't got that. So I'm pretty happy that for pretty much we're getting more regular feeds of NASCAR Race Hub on the Fox Sports 1 channel. And they have a popular segment they've brought back. It's called Behind the Wheel. It actually began a couple of days ago with a segment entitled Vintage to Vogue. Kind of explained that what was old is new again. NASCAR t-shirts, the fan jackets, the old ones becoming popular again. Upcoming segments also include Evolution, Stock Car to Race Car, which goes through the 75-year history of NASCAR and the evolution of the cars used over that time. Remember, we're on Gen 7 now. That one airs this coming Thursday, the final one of the 3 films in the series. This one ought to be a really interesting story. Beating the Odds, the Ernie Irvan story about how Irvan overcame all times of adversity in his career and became a Cup Series winning driver. That'll air on July 7th during Race Hub. Get a chance to catch them. They're really cool things. I want to go back real quick. Talk about the Camping World Truck Series last night. Because there was, to use the term from the Indy 500, we had a bump day.
Oh, big one.
Okay.
A big one.
But it was an odd one in the fact that not all cars actually took times, and the 2 cars that didn't take times still had an effect on the ones that did as to whether or not they made the race. Tell me about this.
One of the 2 did.
Okay.
The 2 that didn't take time was 26, which was the second Rackley War truck that was put on the track that Tate Fogelman was driving. The second one was the Tim Vines on G2G 46 truck. 46 truck broke in practice. Still don't know what he broke. Ain't got a clue what he broke. All right. 26 truck was the first truck on track in qualifying. 26 truck spins coming to take the checkered flag on his one qualifying lap. We know automatically he's DNQ number 1. Okay. Secondly, the DNQ, the DNQs from there. All right, you got your question mark. Anybody that's below, I'm gonna say below 32nd in owner points in trucks, when you've got a field that's more than 36, you're edgy. Let's call it that. That's a nice way to put it. Well, 46 truck does not take a time. There's 2 trucks that's not there. By the qualifying procedures for the trucks, to guarantee yourself into the race, you have to be 31st or better. Anybody that's 32nd on down, it's questionable. Well, it was 41 trucks on the entry list, and then God love her, Jennifer Jo Cobb, decided the last minute to go be truck number 42.
Okay.
So that means you had to beat 11 trucks in qualifying. Qualifying gets complete. 32 truck, the 26 and 46, no time. Okay. So there you go from 11 down to 9 trucks you really have to beat on time. Gets down to it, 32 truck, which is Brett Holmes. He's been on the show before. Anybody that don't know that, everybody knows how tight of a connection I got to it. Let's just leave it at that. Gets down to it. Let me word it this way. He fails to beat 3 trucks. Get down through the post-qualifying tech. He's DNQ number 2 that goes out by point standings, metric, whatever the crap they use nowadays.
It is quite the formula.
All right. How close it was, Todd Bodine was technically the last truck to make it in on speed.
Okay.
Go to post-qualifying tech. Truck number 14 of Trey Hutchins and Max Gutierrez in the 22 has time disallowed due to ride heights being too low.
Okay.
I'm having to explain it like this step by step because I'm still confused, and some media people were confused too.
I bet they were.
But I find it, I have went back and looked. I find it intriguing. I'm not going to say odd. I'm going to say intriguing. There was only one media person that reported on this. One. And that's CatchFence.com's Chris Knight. We're sitting there looking at the grid. We're going, wait a minute. Where's the 46 truck?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the 46? Where's the 46? The 46 truck shows up onto the grid 2 minutes before national anthem commences.
Ooh, that's tight.
2 minutes. I literally watched the kid driving the 46 truck standing there at the spot of the grid with his hands like this going,
Where's my truck?
where's my truck? 46 truck gets to the grid, cranks up, does not roll off a pit road.
Okay.
All right, let me backtrack a second. NASCAR gives the 46 the starting spot over the 32. 46 does not take a time. 32 does.
Based on
Qualifying. 46 truck did not
Okay.
take time at all. He got credited with a DNS in qualifying. Did not start his qualifying attempt.
Mm-hmm.
They give the 46 the starting spot over the 32. Okay. And I can't believe I'm actually saying this. 13 hours ago, based off of the timeline of Chris Knight's social media, Chase Janes, who was driving the 46, did not take the green flag. BHR, referring to Brett's team, says that the 46 withdrew from the race and to try to help the 32 get the last provisional, but according to BHR, NASCAR told them that the lineup was set. Flag on the play here. And this is not a 15-yard personal foul. This is a 30-yard personal foul. If the 46 officially withdrew, and I'm using air quotes,
Sure.
because there's no official statement from anybody saying that they withdrew. Why wasn't the 32 bumped into the race if they officially withdrew, but you're given a hard set on a lineup when you've got a truck that doesn't get to the grid but 2 minutes before the national anthem and invocation starts?
And doesn't
Even turn a lap. And here's the better part. I didn't tell you this. 33 laps into the first stage. Guess who rolls out of the garage? 46 truck. Can't even get through second gear. Stays on the apron all the way down the backstretch, crawling. My 11-year-old niece could have ran faster on foot than what this truck was moving.
But they had to put it out there just to show up.
You got a truck that doesn't start the race, doesn't take the green flag, but you let him roll onto the track 33 laps after the event starts
And can only get down on the apron because of massive technical
and
problems.
can't even get out of second gear?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a problem.
And where did this come from? Don't know. Well, I turned around and asked Chris Knight this. I said, when did the withdrawal officially take place? After the 14 and the 22 time was disallowed. Could not confirm with the 46 team, but that they actually withdrew as the team was working underneath the truck, but the two teams were parked side by side and no reason to doubt BHR. Nothing that either team will do about it, to be honest. It sounded like NASCAR was firm on the lineup.
So they got stuck on making sure that was the lineup and that's the way we're going to go, and we're not willing to move off of that.
We're not willing to move off of it, but supposedly the 46 withdrew, and there's been nothing but controversy and drama around the 46 and the 47 truck in general this year.
Yeah.
So I don't know what is going on.
And we'll probably not get an explanation from NASCAR from it either.
And to seal it off, Chris's final tweet on this during the race. With a borrowed transmission from BHR.
Ah, there you go.
He's emerged from the garage, but on the final rundown, the reason he was out of the race listed with only credited one lap, rear gear. There needs to be an explanation to what's going on, and I'm going to give him a little bit of time to cool off because I know he's frustrated about how yesterday went, but I'm going to go straight to the horse's mouth myself and ask him what happened with that, because I got this right here, what actually happened. So now we can compare a team actually that seen and knew what was going on versus what media reports.
There you go. We'll find out. We'll keep up. We'll keep on it because we'll probably be one of the few, if only, reporting outlets that will.
We'll be the only one.
Probably. As we noted in the race recap, as we turn our attention to the Superstar Racing Experience, or SRX Series, Elio Castroneves is being promised a NASCAR ride if he had won last weekend at Pensacola's Five Flag Speedway by SRX CEO Don Hawk. Well, it happened. Hawk was on hand Thursday for a press conference call ahead of tonight's race at South Boston Speedway in Virginia, and Hawk said things are in the works towards that event. Hawk said this, quote, "I actually took a little time off to be with my family Sunday. I did all I could do in the shop with SRX on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but my side job was representing Mr. Castroneves. Phone calls have been taking place. The ball is rolling, and when he gets up here this weekend, he'll know a little more, but we're not ready to say a whole lot publicly." He then moved on to other subjects and circled back later on in the teleconference and said, quote, "It all depends on how all of this rolls out as to whether we're going to look at more than one race or optional races. The intention originally was that he wanted to run the Daytona 500, and if not, another crown jewel race. We're really not going to try to make the Daytona 500 work. We're really going to try to make the Daytona 500 work." As for Castroneves, he said this, quote, "I drove for so many years with Roger Penske, and I was not able to get a NASCAR opportunity there. And once, now that I had an opportunity in my contract, why not? Why not try things that I never did? So now I'm trying SRX, IMSA, IndyCar, and it would be a very natural thing to try something that I've always wanted, which was NASCAR. So I know it'll be great. I know it'll be tough, but hey, who knows? You never know what to expect, and I don't know because I haven't driven one, but I want to do the Daytona 500 for sure."
2 words. Actually, 1 word and 2 numbers. Project 91.
That's what I'm thinking. Last year, when the SRX Series debuted at Stafford Speedway in Connecticut, it made a rising star out of a kid by the name of Doug Coby. Potentially, it has done the same after last weekend's race at Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola with Bubba Pollard, local driver who started in the back and worked his way from the back to finish second. But there's another driver who wants to be in on that. He's running tonight. It is South Boston regular late model driver Peyton Sellers. Now, Sellers might, if you have been paying attention to some lower divisions of NASCAR, might be familiar with that name. At one time, he had a development deal with Richard Childress Racing. Ultimately, that fell apart. But he still ran a number of truck and Xfinity Series races, claimed some wins in the ARCA Menards competition as well, but ended up ultimately returning to racing mainly on weekends on a local level and running the family business during the week. He, however, is the SRX local racer of choice this weekend. Of note, Sellers, just to let you know, and think about some of the names that we mentioned during the rundown, Sellers has more laps turned at South Boston Speedway by himself than the entire rest of the field in the SRX division tonight.
Can you say he's the odds-on favorite?
You're going to see tonight what you saw with Doug Coby at Stafford last year.
I think you're right. So the question is who's the breakout star? Coby was the breakout star arguably last year. So far with Bubba Pollard and now Peyton Sellers, and granted, we still got 4 more races after this. You think it's one of these two, or we still got one waiting in the wings?
One waiting in the wings.
I gotcha. When we come
Natural.
back, we got to take a break. We will turn to open wheel action as we have quite a bit of Indycar news to talk about. A lot of testing over the last week in 2 different places. We'll give you some updates on that and some other news from the world of IndyCar and Formula One as well when we come back on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Well, IndyCar was off last weekend. Welcome back into CRN. I'm Steve West along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. The IndyCar teams, though, very busy this week. Monday testing at Iowa Speedway, 19 cars were there. And while official times and speeds were not released, Team Penske, which has 4 of 5 wins dating back to 2017 at that track, they had the 3 fastest in unofficial timing. Joseph Newgarden, Will Power, Scott McLaughlin, quickest among the 19 in attendance that morning. Then you get to the afternoon session. McLaughlin was at the top of the speed charts with Power second. Takuma Sato putting his Dale Coyne Racing with Rick Ware Racing ride up in third. Also of note, Christian Lundgaard, the rookie, put his Rahal Letterman Lanigan ride in fourth. Joseph Newgarden was 5th fastest there. And then Thursday, attention turned to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where 8 IndyCar teams were tire testing for all intents and purposes. Thing about it is, the tire they used, they were running on the road course, was actually made by Firestone to run at Barber Motorsports Park. The tires they're going to use at the second Indy Grand Prix event will be different when they go back in August. So the speeds are expected to be slower for the tires that they bring to the next Indy Grand Prix in August than the tires they used at Barber that they used in the test up at Indy. They actually were faster with the Barber tires than the regular Indy tires.
Oof.
Colton Herta was the quickest. He ran a fast lap of 70.554 seconds. Slowest, Simona Di Silvestro. We'll get back to her in a moment. She was 1.3 seconds off of Herta's pace. Alexander Rossi, Pato Award, Felix Rosenquist, 2, 3, and 4. Romain Grosjean, Devlin DiFrancesco, Kyle Kirkwood, all ahead of Di Silvestro. This is the first test of the season for Di Silvestro and the Paretta Autosport team. So 1.3 seconds off, yeah, it's a gap, but for your very first test of the year, it's not all that bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's considering you're just knocking the rust off for the year, getting everything going. I mean, yeah, that's not terrible.
And truth be told, I mean, yeah, it's technically it's at a track that they're not all that familiar with. You've got to remember the Paretta Autosport team up to this point in time has only run the Indy 500.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an unfamiliar course to them. We'll see how they do.
We'll see.
Marcus Ericsson, hot off of his Indy 500 win, and he's been in kind of a hot streak since then, was top 10 in both morning and afternoon sessions. Fastest the Chip Ganassi quartet as we go back to the one in Iowa, where all three Penske drivers turned more than 200 laps, which fits with the upcoming doubleheader weekend at Iowa. Remember, they're going to run 250 laps on Saturday, 300 laps on Sunday. So a lot of testing over the course of this weekend. It'll be interesting to see how this turns out. And then there's 7-time Cup Series champion turned IndyCar driver Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson, let's just put it bluntly, has not really been successful at the IndyCar ranks. He's got, what, one top 10, I think? Maybe two? And yet, he wants to do more. He's actually sitting on pins and needles waiting to see the 2023 IndyCar Series schedule because he's made it very clear to his old bosses at his NASCAR team, Hendrick Motorsports, and presumably at his IndyCar team, Chip Ganassi Racing, that he wants to be one of the drivers in the Hendrick NASCAR Garage 56 entry at Le Mans next year, where they're going to run that modified Gen 7 stock car in that experimental class, Garage 56. On Tuesday, Johnson was on a teleconference and said, quote, "I'm pushing behind the scenes to IndyCar president Jay Fry and others to try to understand what the schedule might be because I want to go to Le Mans. It would be an amazing experience to go with Hendrick and Action Express and the way this whole partnership works. IndyCar officials have yet to even declare when the 2023 schedule might be released, much less whether or not they're going to race on the same weekend as the 24 Hours of Le Mans."
Which I personally doubt.
So he wants to climb back into a stock car to race at Le Mans.
Uh-huh. And he hasn't gotten a handle on IndyCar yet.
Well, I mean, he's running the 6 hours at the Glen here this weekend.
I will say this. He can do it because of who he is.
That's pretty much true. 7 Cup Series championships, 5 of them in a row. That'll open up a lot of doors.
How well he can do it remains to be seen.
I guess we'll find out. Juncos Hollinger Racing is looking towards their future and may have found their second driver. They're prepping for a test for Indy Lights driver Benjamin Peterson. He's a 22-year-old Danish-American driver who's been targeting IndyCar for the past couple of years now. This coming week, he's going to test a Juncos Hollinger IndyCar car at Sebring's short course. He has the resume to join IndyCar. He's racked up 9 podium finishes in his year and a half at the Indy Lights Series, and those are for his family-owned global racing group. They partner with a company called HMD Motorsports. HMD Motorsports is aligned with Juncos Hollinger Racing. We'll find out. McLaren's future, meanwhile, does include Felix Rosenquist. Here's the thing. We're not sure in exactly what way. Yeah. We know this. We know Pato O'Ward and Alexander Rossi will be driving Aero McLaren SP in 2023, but the team is saying that they want to expand out to 3 full-time cars next year as well. So that could be the opening that Rosenquist needs to stay with Aero McLaren racing SP and IndyCar next year. But the team admits they might also think about moving him into their new Formula E team. And we've been paying attention to that as well. McLaren is set to take over the Mercedes team next year. This is the last year for Mercedes in Formula E. McLaren's also looking towards that, where they have signed with Nissan a deal that will net Nissan powertrains for McLaren in the all-electric series, but they haven't announced their driver lineup yet. And Rosenqvist has Formula E experience. He raced for Mahindra 2 years, 2016 and 2017 season and the 2017-2018 season, and he claimed 3 wins over those 2 seasons. So wouldn't be a bad deal. But then who do you turn to for a potential third car? All of that's in the future. Rosenqvist said this, quote, "I'm delighted to be remaining with McLaren for 2023 and beyond. With the team expanding into Formula E next season, it provides additional opportunities for both me in the USA and in Europe, and I look forward to being in a position to announce my plans in the coming weeks. I'm excited and grateful to be given this opportunity to explore the new options available to help McLaren start 2023 on the strongest possible footing." Being a team player, I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, for sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
I mean, this is a guy who specifically moved over to IndyCar because, as I remember back then, he felt like IndyCar was the stronger series. Mm-hmm. And truth be told, I still think that it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get it. It only races in the United States, but I still think it's stronger than Formula E.
Oh, leaps and bounds. But you're putting yourself into a whole lot of world travel if you're going to try to attempt to possibly run both.
Oof. Not sure how that would work.
Oof.
Dale Coyne Racing experienced quite a good year this year, combining forces with Indy Lights powerhouse operation HMD. Yeah, there's that team again that pairs with Juncos Hollinger Racing. It was that pairing, though, that actually brought Dale Coyne Racing rookie David Malukas to run their number 18 Honda-powered entry. Pairing brought Coyne into the Indy Lights competition, paired with the 5-car HMD Motorsports operation. They fielded a Swedish driver by the name of Linus Lundqvist, who I don't know if he's any relation to any other driver of the past with that same last name. This could get expanded, though, next year. Dale Coyne and HMD are, according to Racer.com, looking into fielding a second car on a full-time basis in IndyCar. And Lundqvist might be the leading candidate to drive that, which would make DCR a 3-car team. You got Malukas in a DCR and HMD prepped car. And then on the other side is Takuma Sato, who, yes, it's a Dale Coyne Racing car, but that's that Dale Coyne with Rick Ware Racing number 51. So Dale Coyne really doesn't have any of his own cars here. He's pairing up with other teams to field a team for all intents and purposes.
Yes, sir. But the part about this is Rick Ware's got the money to do it, but he don't want to buy his own good stuff.
There you go. Coyne right now saying that the major hurdle towards putting that third car onto the track is getting the right people to be able to man or, be the pit crew, be the technical people behind the scenes, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. I get the funny feeling there would be more than several people that would be more than happy to put in a resume if you open it up.
Agreed.
I'd do it sooner rather than later, Dale.
Agreed.
Then there's Firestone. They have opened up their new advanced tire production center in Akron, Ohio. It is home to 60 tire builders. And you think 60? Okay. 60 tire builders, manufacturing professionals, marking Akron's new first tire plant in over 70 years. These 60 tire builders and manufacturing professionals are housed in an 80,000 square foot facility. Okay, then. Bridgestone Firestone is the company. They intend the facility to, quote, advance innovation in race tires, unquote, noting that all race tires will now come from that particular plant. In the grand opening, Firestone officials noted that in 2023, they're going to become the official tire supplier not only of IndyCar, but of the Indy Lights series as well. You might be surprised to know that they weren't the official tire supplier beforehand. 80,000 square foot facility just opened up to do race tires only. Must be nice.
And they say there's a tire shortage.
I'm going to go with no.
Yeah, I'm going to go with no.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, if you've been a longtime fan of racing, specifically open wheel, you might remember a name. Lola. They've been gone for a while. Going to try to make a comeback, though. By the way, this isn't the Kinks song of the same name. I'm just going to let you know. We'll tell you how this might make a comeback into the open wheel racing world when we come back. You're listening to CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here, talking some IndyCar. And if you are a longtime fan of IndyCar racing, you might actually remember the name Lola. The British race car building company, but it's been dormant for over a decade until now. A British sports car racer turned highly successful businessman has bought the rights to the name and the old Lola manufacturing facility in hopes of reviving the brand, which once actually did dominate IndyCar and sports car competition and even competed at a high level in Formula One. I'm going to screw up this name. I know it, but I'm going to do it anyway. His name is Till Bechtelsheimer. Wants to concentrate on what made Lola initially great and feared in motorsports, design and engineering. He's already planning on a heavy investment into modernizing the old Lola facilities in Britain and told Racer.com this, quote, "It's still early in the rebuilding process and specific goals are being defined, but would love for Lola to go back to IndyCar." But he cautioned, at the moment, that's not possible because it's a single make spec chassis, Dallara. That could change down the line, sure, and I would like to have Lola in a position to make a credible play at being back in a place like Indy if and when the regulations allow for it. And then with a little bit more enthusiasm, continued on by saying this, quote, "Whether the first major project be in sports cars or single-seaters, whether that be as lofty as IndyCar or Le Mans, or whether it's something that's at a lower level, it's about rebuilding a company around Lola's capabilities. That's the primary goal. We need to be careful not to get engrossed in a vanity project. I love Le Mans. I'd love Lola to go back to Le Mans. Yes, those are all true. But my main goal is building out infrastructure, getting Lola back on track, making sure that we're chasing the right opportunities rather than starting off by chasing the spotlight. I need to bring Lola back as a capable engineering and design house in the world of modern motorsport." This is a guy who appears to have his head screwed on straight, at least.
I mean, yeah, that's the right aspect you need to have if you're going to do it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Very positive aspect. Aspect.
In case you didn't know, we did a little bit of background for you, so you don't have to go searching on the interwebs, but you can if you like. But Lola supplied the Indy Lights series with spec cars for most of the 1990s into the 2000s, built championship-winning racers for Formula 3000 as well, inspired the 3 chassis builders that dominate open-wheel racing to this day. You got Dallara and Tatus from Italy and Francis Ligier. Now, Dallara is well known. We've talked about this. They have that deal to where they are the sole chassis supplier to IndyCar. I don't think to Indy Lights, though.
I'm not sure on that one.
And we know that Dallara also provides the chassis to Haas F1 and Formula One. Ligier does some Formula One. Tatus does mostly sports cars, if I remember correctly. But I might be wrong on that. So it'll be interesting to watch and see if they can make headway in doing what it is that Till would like to do with the new Lola. We'll see. Turning our attention over to Formula One, bit of a shocker came from Valtteri Bottas earlier this week, said in an interview that after the 2018 season, he was really thinking about quitting. He was constantly being beaten by his teammate Lewis Hamilton, and it was wearing on him. Now, Bottas had joined Mercedes and became Lewis Hamilton's teammate in 2017 and won 3 races that first year with him, but in 2018 failed to win a race. He had his mind set to quitting, but he changed his mind with only 2 months to go before the 2019 season began. Bottas said of this, quote, "At the end of 2018, I almost stopped. It was so close just because of the fact that I couldn't understand and take in the fact that I could not beat Lewis in those 2 years. I had a good break between the 2 seasons, really had to think things through, decided to go on a break in South America somewhere and just tried not to think about F1 at all, tried to find the will and the joy for the sport and the motivation, and I found it. It was like a click at one point, but it was after New Year's." He noted that the results turned in 2019 as well, but he would remain as second chair to Lewis Hamilton, and that ultimately led to his move from Mercedes after the 2021 season to go to Alfa Romeo. He hasn't won, but his presence on that team has led the organization to a marked improvement. As we noted during the race recap last hour, which you may have missed, the team has scored 51 championship points on the season so far, most of them courtesy of Valtteri Bottas. At this time last year, no, I take that back. In all of last year, Remember, we're about halfway through the Formula One season so far. They got 51 points. All of 2021, Alfa Romeo scored 13.
Yeah, and he's consistently
top 10.
And consistently at times outperforming the Mercedes car.
I would agree with that as well. I
At
mean,
times.
he has
Keyword, at
on
times.
several occasions outperformed his former teammate at Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton.
Quite a bit.
Then there's the Red Bull look at Mercedes, claiming that the technical directive that was issued by the FIA just before the Canadian Grand Prix was overly biased to helping Mercedes. Mercedes has had, as we have talked about on the show, a problem with what they call porpoising or bouncing as they go down the straights, to the point where Hamilton and Russell have been complaining about backaches and back pains. The thing about it is according to Red Bull's Christian Horner, Mercedes already had a solution prepared, and that was without the FIA's directive, and it led several teams to actually complain about the FIA's issuance of that TD, saying that only Mercedes benefited from it. Mercedes did experiencing a little bit of porpoising in Canada, but say they got enough of a handle on it that they believe the issue has been fixed. This will be the second time that we've heard that from them when they get to race again next weekend. And then we want to get back to Kevin Magnussen. We talked about he and Lewis Hamilton got together on lap 1 as Kevin Magnussen started 5th. He and Lewis Hamilton got into a little bit of contact on lap 1, which, hey, we see contact on lap 1 in Formula One races pretty much all the time because they do that standing start. But he got a little bit of damage from it. And he said that it was because of rival driver Esteban Ocon having undue influence on F1's race control that ended his hopes of breaking his point-scoring drought. Magnussen, noted in the recap, started 5th, was running strong. He and Hamilton get into it. Contact caused some damage to Magnussen's front wing. The right side end plate, which normally stands straight up, was leaning kind of outward instead of standing straight up and was spotted by Alpine's team, who alerted their driver, Esteban Ocon. He's running behind Magnussen, who got to talking to his team on the radio about it. The Haas team and Magnussen got to talking about it as well. Because, I mean, it is something that you would notice as a driver.
Yeah.
They said it was having little to no effect. And it looked to be that way because at the beginning, Magnussen actually was out in front of Hamilton and was staying out in front of Hamilton. So it didn't seem to have much of any effect on his handling of his car at all.
No, it really didn't. But
then Ocon gets on the radio and says, knowing that F1 Race Control monitors all teams' radio communication, quote, yeah, I can see it's hanging on. It's going to fall. If he loses it, I'm going to hit it in the face. That seems a little dramatic.
a little bit.
Magnussen,
Just a little.
Yeah, Magnussen claims Ocon was clearly lobbying for the black and orange flag that would have forced him in the pits for repairs. And, yep, shortly after that comment was made, it was shown to Magnussen on lap 7. Haas F1 reportedly had plans to deal with it on their first scheduled pit stop, but because they were forced to do it, it changed the team's plans. And as we talked about, the tires fell off and he finished last amongst all the cars running at the end of the race. After the race, Magnussen said, quote, I was just talking to Ocon now, and he was joking about how he told the FIA that it was really bad. If you know you can influence the FIA like that, you're going to do it, aren't you? Which you sort of did, and fair play, but you got to let us drive with that blank. It's nothing. I just had a bit of contact, nothing serious, scratched my front wing a little bit, and then was told to pit. Again, had plans to deal with it during the first break, which would have been a longer than normal pit stop, yes, but it wouldn't have hurt him as much there as it did, I think, by making them basically change their entire plans for the rest of the race.
It wouldn't have. No. Not at all.
Things that could have been. AlphaTauri locking down their 2023 driver lineup, signing Pierre Gasly to a one-year extension of his deal. That'll go through next year. Gasly's future at Red Bull and its sister organization had been something that had been kind of up in the air for most of this year. We all knew he was in his contract year. The recent signing of Sergio Perez, though, to a long-term deal had blocked a possible return to Red Bull, and some thought it might meant that he was on his way out of the Red Bull organization. But after the Canadian Grand Prix, AlphaTauri team boss Franz Tost told media that it was quote-unquote 100% certain that Gasly was going to remain with the team past this year. News of the signing was officially released only yesterday. Gasly, in a statement from the team, noted that he's been there for 5 years. He's happy to stay with them. And it's kind of taken some of the wind out of the sails of Formula One silly season, because you think about it. Gasly and Perez have signed, so all 4 of the Red Bull AlphaTauri seats are spoken for. Ferrari's certainly good. Mercedes, unless Lewis Hamilton up and retires, which nobody's thinking he is, they seem to be good. Williams still something of a question, specifically surrounding Nicholas Latifi. Some speculation about whether Sebastian Vettel might retire as well. That could potentially leave a seat open at Aston Martin. Alpine's Fernando Alonso has no contract for 2023, so there's one more possibility. McLaren, Haas F1, and Alfa Romeo have been pretty quiet so far as to their plans for next year, so I don't know what to expect out of silly season yet.
I don't know.
That being said, there is a website out there that's not ESPN, so take this with a grain of salt, because I am until I get official word. But I believe it's called Fan Barker. They're saying that that Formula One and ESPN have reached an agreement on continuing their television contract. I'm going to wait for official word from ESPN or Formula One before I go with that any further. I'm just going with rumor.
I might tack a little bit onto that one. Adam Stern is putting it out as well.
Okay.
They agreed to renew its U.S. media rights with ESPN through 2025, sources tell Sports Business Journal.
Okay. And that puts a little bit more
credibility,
substance and credibility to the report. But again, I'm going to wait for ESPN or Formula One to come out officially with it.
Here, listen to this part.
Okay.
On his release, per the sources, ESPN has agreed to increase their rights fee from $5 million annually to $75 to $90 million a year.
Well, how much do you really want it?
Yeah.
Yes, we'll see. And then there's more interest from new tracks in hosting a Formula One race. This one is in a country that actually already hosts a Formula One race. We talked about France last week. How about the Spanish Grand Prix this week? They run normally at the Catalunya circuit in Barcelona, but now we got the city of Madrid expressing interest to host as well. Knowing that Catalunya's contract runs through 2026, officials with Madrid are already expressing interest in putting in a bid for 2027. Madrid has played host to the Spanish Grand Prix before, 9 times specifically, using the Jarama race course. It's actually north of downtown Madrid. But the last time that they played host to Formula One at that track was 1981. And they haven't been keeping that particular facility up to grade. It is not up to F1 safety standards at this time. So work would have to be done. At least they'd have till 2027 to do it. Also, as things stand currently, the F1 schedule for 2023 is up against the agreed-upon 24-race limit. Remember, Qatar and Vegas are joining for certain, and potentially South Africa next year as well. So how much further are we going to go with that? Again, we talked about this potential future French Grand Prix, not on Circuit Paul Ricard as it is now, but on the Riviera coastal city of Nice. Had some wondering whether that might be spelling a death knell for the Monaco Grand Prix, which is coming under fire, number one, for not adapting to the current ideas of Formula One. As the cars have gotten wider, nothing has changed to the Monaco course. And they also now note how close Nice and Monaco are when you look at a map. Well, Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali has said that both being on the calendar is actually more than workable, even noting an extension of Formula One's deal to bring a race to Monaco is right now being negotiated. Monaco, being a crown jewel race, also takes a lot of liberties that are actually not afforded to other races. For example, Monaco has the lowest race hosting fee of any race that's on the Formula One circuit right now. They also retain their own commercial rights, which creates something of an interesting situation for Formula One, because that means that the signage is left to Monaco race officials. Well, they signed a deal with Tag Heuer. Formula One's got a deal where Rolex is their official timekeeper. So that's weird, but Liberty CEO Greg Maffei, who is in charge of the company that holds the F1 commercial rights, insists that highlighting a potential Nice race was not a shot across the bow to Monaco or a threat even to their place on the F1 schedule, and told motorsport.com this, quote, "No, we just want to have great races. There are a lot of people interested in holding a race, and we like to look at alternatives." So apparently Monaco, if they can come to terms, is safe.
Yeah.
It is amazing, though, when you're a crown jewel, apparently how much you can get away with.
True. But it's just to even have the thought of Monaco not even being on the F1 schedule.
Weird. I don't know why you would do it.
That would be like taking away the Coca-Cola 600.
Yeah.
That's what it would be like.
Why would you move the Coca-Cola 600 from Charlotte, and where would you move it to make it work?
There's really nowhere you could make it work.
Yeah,
honestly.
I agree with that. The Coca-Cola 600 belongs in Charlotte. It's kind of like saying, well, let's take the season opener away from Daytona. Why would you do that? We're so used to the Daytona 500 leading off the season. It's been doing that for, 40 years now, give or take. Mm-hmm. So, we just get used to certain things. And again, Monaco's a crown jewel race. I get that COVID affected the situation, but we still have a Long Beach Grand Prix and IndyCar. We still have the Indy 500 in varying forms, depending on how many people are in the stands. We still have a Daytona 500. We still have a Coca-Cola 600. Not having a Monaco Grand Prix would just be way too weird.
Yeah. As just like I still can't wrap my mind around them leaving Germany.
Yeah, but that's in some ways I kind of blame that a little bit more on Germany than anything else.
True, but you look at it, legacy races to F1 for me is like, I guess you could say kind of on a level like the old Winston Million races, maybe.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just like when was it? A couple weeks ago. Got into a back and forth with somebody on social media, but it wasn't negative or it was a positive. So with Indianapolis Oval not being on, has Denny, talking about Denny Hamlin, after he won the 600, has he now won all the crown jewels? I said, by the old technical definition, yes, he has.
Sure.
I said, because now what was the Winston 500 is now the Yellowwood 500.
Right.
The old diehard 500 is the Geico 500.
Yep.
So if you want to go by that definition, yes, Denny would have won the Winston Million.
Sure.
Easily. Because I'm pretty sure he won the Southern 500, Talladega, and Daytona in the same year. So he would have won 3 out of 4, which would have got the Winston Million.
That would have netted him that.
So,
Then there's John's favorite Cup Series driver, Martin Truex Jr. He announced late last night, apparently, that he is set to return to Joe Gibbs Racing next year after kind of mulling his future. There had been talk about him maybe stepping away from NASCAR. Nope, he said, quote, "I'll be back in the number 19 next year. The competitive side of me said I'm not done and I'm going to keep fighting." He turns 42 this coming Wednesday. It'll be his 18th Cup Series season, 31 Cup victories, and, of course, the 2017 title. So Martin Truex Jr., at least one more year for him. And then we've talked about that potential Formula One movie, Brad Pitt starring, Lewis Hamilton being involved. John and I are familiar with a game on the Sony PlayStation series called Gran Turismo.
Yep.
They're about to make a movie out of that.
Oh, really?
Supposedly more on the Racing Academy side of things, that has actually brought players that have driven and done well on an international level playing Gran Turismo and actually have gotten a chance to race actual race cars. We'll see whether that actually comes to fruition or not. Apparently, it's been on the drawing board, for about 15 years now.
Wow.
Hey, y'all have a great week. Enjoy the racing. We'll talk to you again next week right here on the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.